a few. If you did watch it last Sunday evening, you would have seen lots of sparkle. Jennifer Lopez's gown alone looked like it contained about, well, just thousands of little tiny mirrors. But last Sunday morning, while Pastor Jocelyn was here with you all, and she gives you all a good report, by the way. You all behaved, thank you. Our family saw lots of sparkle already at our youngest daughter Gabby's acrobatics competition. You see, with acro, as we call it, the Leos, also known as leotards, but those of us in the sport call them Leos, all have hundreds or thousands of rhinestones on them. It seems that apparently the more sparkly the Leo is, the better. And it's been a learning experience watching some of the more seasoned mothers on Gabby's team spending countless hours gluing these rhinestones onto their daughter's Leos. I jokingly tell them that they're a bunch of stoners. Thank you for laughing. They don't always laugh at me when I tell them that. But they're not alone, because even at the competition, I saw mothers right there with their, attaching stones to their children's Leos right before they were about to go out and compete. They wanted to make sure they sparkled. Now, there is an element of the routine that is judged based on artistry. So these sparkles can actually make a difference with their score. But I think more than that, there's a self-confidence that these athletes gain when they walk out to compete knowing that they shine. Very literally. They look amazing, and they know it. And so I think that helps them to do just a little bit better. Now, after everyone has done their routine, after everyone is done competing and the scores are all added up and all of the medals have been handed out, it's fun to sit back and watch all of the littler girls squirm onto the floor and gather up all these rhinestones that have fallen off everyone's Leos. Apparently, some of them just have collections where they put them in glass jars so they can look at the shine. And some of them use them for crafts. And some of them use them to glue onto their own Leos, which, considering how much they cost, is not a bad idea. I might need to go and gather some myself. But it's really disheartening to realize that the sparkle doesn't just get left on the floor. It doesn't just get vacuumed up and thrown away. It gets gathered and carried out into the world to continue its use. Now today is Transfiguration Sunday. And we began the season of Epiphany with a great big sparkle, with the star that the Magi followed, longing to be in the presence of Christ. And today, as we end this season, it comes to a close with even more sparkle. Jesus is on a mountaintop with his very sleepy entourage. And as he's praying, he begins to sparkle, or shine, or glow. And we go back, remembering when Moses was in God's presence, and he too sparkled and shone and glowed. And then, who shows up but Moses? And along with him, Elijah. And the three of them, Jesus and Moses and Elijah, have this conversation about Jesus' impending death and resurrection. And they all sparkle together. And then Elijah and Moses are gone. And the disciples are left overwhelmed, awestruck, externally processing, trying to make sense of everything that just happened. And as they're doing that, God interrupts them and confirms for them what they knew deep in their gut. That Jesus is, in fact, God's chosen Son. And they should be quiet and listen to him. Well, Peter and John and James didn't have much to say after that. When God tells you to be quiet, I think you probably get quiet. And they followed Jesus down the mountain where Jesus got back to work. You see, all this time there's all this sparkling going on up the mountain. The remaining disciples were at the base of the mountain, struggling and unsuccessful in trying to heal a boy. And I can just picture Jesus shaking his head and uttering some choice words. And then he spreads some more sparkle as he brings healing to that boy and sends the boy out into the world. Now, sparkle doesn't have to remain only in the Gospels because it continues. It's everywhere. Sometimes we overlook it. Sometimes it's in the most unexpected places. During World War II, North Platte was a little town of about 12,000 people in Nebraska. It was located in pretty much the middle of nowhere, but it was along a railway that brought soldiers from the West Coast east who were bound to fight and serve in Europe. And it brought soldiers from the East Coast who were headed toward the Pacific. And because of North Platte's central location, the trains would stop there for about 10 minutes to give these soldiers some time to have a bathroom break and grab a snack before going on. Well, the people from this little podunk town decided that they were going to make those 10 minutes sparkle. And for every group that stopped there, up to 23 groups a day, the people of the town offered them, these soldiers, gifts, and there was barbecue waiting for them, and they danced for them and sang with them and helped them to sparkle. Well, today, North Platte has doubled in size to a whopping 24,000 people, but they did it again. This past summer, there were 21 buses of our soldiers who needed a rest stop. And they thought, hey, North Platte's right on the way. Let's just stop there. And so as these soldiers got off the bus, at no cost to them, they were fed, they were hugged, they were entertained. One soldier received a birthday cake for the first time in his life. And then they got back on those buses, sparkling. Because the people from this otherwise ordinary, dull, some might even say dreary town, decided to stop everything and gave of themselves to bring joy and hope and comfort to others. You see, that's what happens when we're in God's presence. Like Jesus, like Moses, like North Platte, we sparkle. We are filled with such joy and hope and peace that we shine. We can't help it. Even when we might be having the dullest day, it just exudes out of us. Calvary does that a lot. You do that a lot. It's as if in our baptism, God glued rhinestones right on us so that God's light and love can reflect through us. And then we were called and gathered up, enlightened, and made holy. We have been sent to spread sparkle by proclaiming this incredibly good news of Jesus Christ in word, but also by action. To care for others, all others, in this bright world that God has made. And to work for justice and peace. And as we do so, some of that sparkle might spread because it's contagious. You get some glitter on you, it's bound to get on 5 people around you. Beware, that's going to happen later. It spreads. You'll find it in the most unusual places that you don't know how it could have possibly gotten there, because that's how it works. When we know this good news of God's love and grace, when we live out this good news of God's love and grace for everyone, when we give of ourselves in order to bring sparkle into the world, well, God's light just shines a little brighter through each of us. Amen.